Gotcha. I knew it.
The security camera footage showed my wife cheating with my best friend in our bedroom while I was risking my neck on an oil rig 300 miles offshore. I watched it 5 times before my hands stopped shaking. The timestamp read 2:47 a.m., Tuesday. I'd been gone exactly 18 days. Celine thought I was still out there, riding the steel beast in the Gulf, pulling double shifts to pay for her mother's cancer treatments. But a hurricane had sent us home early, and I'd driven straight through the night to surprise her. Some surprise. I sat in my truck outside our house, watching the kitchen light flicker on. Celine moved around inside, probably making coffee, probably wondering why Eli's truck wasn't in the driveway yet. The cameras I'd installed last month after noticing strange things, moved furniture, unfamiliar cologne on our pillows, my dog cowering whenever Eli came around, had been my insurance policy. I'd hoped they'd prove me wrong. Instead, they'd captured everything. The front door opened. Celine stepped onto the porch in her yoga pants and tank top, the same outfit she'd worn to screw my childhood friend. She looked both ways down the street, then pulled out her phone. My phone buzzed. Text from Celine. "Baby, miss you so much. Hope you're safe out there. Love you." I typed back. "Miss you too. Be home in 10 days. Give Savannah my love." Savannah, my 22-year-old daughter from my first marriage. She'd been staying with us since dropping out of college, supposedly to help care for her step-grandmother. But lately she'd been different, quieter, spending hours in her room, coming out only with red-rimmed eyes. Now I wondered what else my cameras had recorded. I drove around the block twice, giving Celine time to get ready for her morning yoga class, the same class where she'd met Eli 2 years ago when he'd started his logistics company and needed flexibility training for his drivers. I'd introduced them, proud of my wife's business, proud of my friend's success. The irony tasted like battery acid. By the time I pulled into our driveway, Celine had assumed her perfect wife pose. She ran out, threw her arms around me, kissed me with lips that had been wrapped around another man's pecker 6 hours earlier. "You're early," she said, all sunshine and BS. "I thought the storm would keep you out longer." Captain made the call to evacuate, 40-foot swells. I studied her face, looking for cracks in the performance. "Where's Savannah?" "Still sleeping. You know how she is." Celine's smile flickered. "I'll make breakfast. You must be exhausted." I followed her inside, noting how she kept her phone face down on the counter, how she moved with the careful precision of someone hiding something. The house smelled wrong, too clean, like she'd scrubbed away evidence. Upstairs, I knocked on Savannah's door. No answer. I knocked again. "Savannah?" "It's Dad," a muffled voice. "Come in." She was sitting on her bed, laptop open, but she closed it the moment I walked in. Her face was pale, eyes swollen like she'd been crying. "Hey, kiddo." I sat on the edge of her bed. "Everything okay?" She nodded too quickly. "Just tired." "Your stepmom treating you all right? Grandma Miriam giving you any trouble?" Savannah's jaw tightened. "They're fine," but she wouldn't look at me. And when I hugged her goodbye, she felt fragile, like she might break. Downstairs, Celine was scrambling eggs, humming some tune I didn't recognize. I watched her move around our kitchen. The kitchen I'd renovated with my own hands, installing custom cabinets with money earned from 12-hour shifts in the middle of the ocean, and felt something cold settle in my chest. "Eli stopping by today?" I asked casually. Her hand paused on the spatula. "Why would he?" "Just wondering. Haven't seen him in a while. He's been busy with the business. You know how it is." I knew exactly how it was. Eli's business was screwing my wife. My phone rang. "Speak of the devil." "Jonah, buddy." Eli's voice boomed through the speaker. "Heard you got sent home early. Hurricane's a witch, huh?" "Yeah, real witch." I watched Celine's face. She'd gone very still. "What's up? Want to grab a beer later? Catch up? I've got some business opportunities I want to run by you." "Sure. Lorna's place?" "Perfect. 7 o'clock?" After I hung up, Celine was staring at me. "You're going out already? You just got home?" "Business is business." I kissed her forehead. "Besides, gives you time to visit your mom." "Actually, I have a late yoga class tonight." Of course she did. At 5 p.m., I drove to Lorna's bar, a dive joint on the outskirts of town where the bartender minded her own business and the regulars paid cash. Lorna Graves was 40, sharp-eyed, and had known me since high school. When my first marriage fell apart, she'd been there. When Celine came along, Lorna had warned me about women who smiled too much. "You look like crap," she said, sliding a beer across the scarred wooden bar. "Feel worse?" Rig? Among other things. Lorna had a way of reading people, came from 20 years of listening to drunks confess their sins. She leaned against the bar, studying my face. What's her name? Whose name? The woman who's got you looking like you want to burn the world down? I took a long pull of beer. My wife. Ah, Lorna nodded like that explained everything. What'd she do? It's what she's doing. And who she's doing it with. Before Lorna could respond, the door opened. Eli walked in, all swagger and expensive cologne, wearing a smile that used to make me think of good times and shared secrets. Now it made me want to break his jaw. There's the man. He clapped me on the back, ordered a whiskey neat. Good to have you back, brother. Brother. The words stuck in my throat like a fishbone. We found a booth in the back. Eli launched into his pitch, something about expanding his trucking routes, needing an investor, guaranteed returns. I half listened, studying his face, wondering how long he and Celine had been planning this. So, what do you think? He asked finally. I think I need to think about it. Eli's smile faltered. Come on, man. When have I ever steered you wrong? The question hung in the air like smoke. When indeed? I'll let you know, I said. Walking to my truck, I felt Eli's eyes on my back. My phone buzzed with a text from Celine. Class running late. Don't wait up. I drove home through empty streets, past the yoga studio where my wife's car wasn't parked, past the motel where it was, room 247. I'd followed her there 3 weeks ago, before the cameras confirmed what I already knew. The house was quiet when I got home. Savannah's light was off. I went to my workshop in the garage, fired up my laptop, and started reviewing the security footage from the past month. What I saw made my hands shake again, but not from shock this time. From rage. Because it wasn't just Celine and Eli in those videos, it was Savannah too. My daughter, my 22-year-old daughter, crying in Eli's arms after he'd finished with my wife. Eli whispering in her ear, his hands on her shoulders, her face turned up to his like she was drowning and he was air. I watched him kiss her, watched her kiss him back. The timestamp read 3 days ago. I sat in that garage until dawn, watching my family fall apart in high definition. When Celine's car finally pulled into the driveway at 6 a.m., I was ready. How was class? I asked when she slipped into bed. Good. Challenging. She curled against me, her skin still smelling like motel soap. Did you miss me? Every second. And I had. Even now, even knowing what she was, I missed the woman I'd thought she was. But that woman had never existed. Over the next week, I played the perfect husband. I kissed Celine goodbye when she left for her classes. I asked Savannah about her plans, pretended not to notice when she flinched at Eli's name. I had dinner with Miriam, Celine's mother, and listened to her complain about her medications while she chain-smoked cigarettes that made her cancer treatments pointless. You're a good man, Jonah, Miriam wheezed. Too good for this family. She had no idea how right she was. During my research breaks, I called my friend Dusty Vell, a mechanic who'd done time for cybercrime before going straight. Mostly straight. Dusty owed me favors. I'd hired him when no one else would, vouched for him when his parole officer came sniffing around. I need information, I told him. Business records, financial stuff. Can you still do that? Depends on what you need and how much you're paying. I'm not paying, you're repaying. Dusty was quiet for a long moment. What's the target? Stroud Logistics. Everything you can find. 3 days later, Dusty called back. Your friend's been cooking books, siphoning company funds through shell accounts, probably for personal use. IRS would have a field day if they knew. Send me everything. Jonah, whatever you're planning, just send it. That night, I submitted an anonymous tip to the IRS. Attached were financial records showing systematic fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. I also sent copies to the Texas Department of Transportation, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and 3 of Eli's biggest clients. While I waited for the fallout, I focused on my wife. Celine had routines. She liked her coffee at exactly 175 degrees. She set 3 alarms to wake up. She counted her steps on a fitness app, obsessively tracking every mile of her morning runs. I started small, changed the thermostat at night so she'd wake up too hot or too cold, reset her alarms by 15 minutes, moved her coffee mug to different cabinets. I'm losing my mind, she confessed to her sister on the phone. I can't find anything. It's like the house is moving around me. I was in the garage listening through the baby monitor I'd hidden in the kitchen, the same monitor that had recorded her moaning Eli's name while she made dinner. The next week, Eli's world started crumbling. The IRS froze his business accounts. The DOT suspended his commercial licenses pending investigation. His drivers quit when their paychecks bounced. His biggest client terminated their contract. Eli called me, panicked. "Jonah, I need help. Someone's sabotaging my business. The feds are crawling all over my books." "That's rough, buddy. Anything I can do?" "I need money. A bridge loan, just until this blows over." "How much?" "50,000. I pretended to consider it. "Let me think about it." That evening, Celine was agitated. She kept checking her phone, pacing around the kitchen. Finally, she said she was going for a run. I followed her. She didn't run. She drove to the abandoned Dairy Queen on Highway 6, where Eli was waiting in his truck. I parked behind a billboard and watched them argue through binoculars. Eli was gesticulating wildly. Celine kept shaking her head. Their conversation lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, Celine drove home and went straight to bed without speaking to me. The next morning, she was different, distant. She barely touched her breakfast, spent most of the day on the phone with lawyers, trying to help Eli navigate his legal troubles. That afternoon, I got a call from Savannah. "Dad, I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles went white. "How far along?" 8 weeks. 8 weeks. Right around the time the security cameras had started recording her with Eli. "Who's the father?" Savannah. Silence. Then so quietly, I almost missed it. "I can't tell you." Savannah. "I can't, Dad. I'm sorry. I just can't." She hung up. I sat in my truck in the Walmart parking lot, watching families load groceries into their cars, and tried not to think about what I was going to do to Eli Stroud. That night, I went through Savannah's room while she was at her friend's house. Hidden in her dresser drawer, under a stack of old college textbooks, I found a folder full of medical documents, prenatal appointment schedules, insurance forms, emergency contact information. Eli's name was listed as the emergency contact. I took pictures of everything, then put it all back exactly where I'd found it. My phone rang. Dusty. "Your girl's been busy," he said. "Found something interesting in her email." "What?" "Legal documents, custody papers." "Your friend's been consulting with a family lawyer about grandparents' rights." The phone creaked in my hand. "Send me everything." "Jonah, this is getting deep. Maybe you should—" "Send me everything." The documents arrived an hour later. Eli had been planning to claim paternity of Savannah's baby and sue for custody, arguing that I was an unfit guardian due to my work schedule and history of violence. History of violence. He was referring to a bar fight from 15 years ago, when I'd knocking the crap out of a man who'd been kicking his girlfriend. Charges were dropped, but it was still on record. That was the moment I stopped thinking about revenge and started planning it. The next morning, I told Celine I was taking a few days off to spend time with family. She seemed relieved, probably because it meant fewer interruptions for her affair. I drove to the county courthouse and filed for divorce. Then I visited my lawyer and had him draw up a new will, leaving everything to Savannah with a trust fund for her child, assuming she kept it. After that, I went to see Lorna. "I need a favor," I said. "What kind of favor? The kind that might get you in trouble?" Lorna poured herself a shot of bourbon. "I've been in trouble before. What do you need?" "Access to your security system." "The cameras that cover the parking lot." "Why?" "Because in 3 days, I'm going to lure Eli here. And when he leaves, I want footage of him getting into his truck alone and driving away. Jonah, he's been screwing my wife. He got my daughter pregnant. He's trying to steal my grandchild." Lorna stared at me for a long moment. Then she reached under the bar and handed me a flash drive. "Password is karma. Delete whatever you need to delete." 2 days later, I called Eli. "I've been thinking about your situation," I said. "Maybe we can work something out." "Thank God, I knew you'd come through." "Let's meet at Lorna's. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. We'll work out the details." "Jonah, you're saving my life." "That's what friends are for." Friday night, I got to Lorna's early. The place was nearly empty. Just a couple of truckers at the bar and an old-timer playing pool in the back. I chose a booth where I could see the door and nursed a beer while I waited. Eli arrived right on time, looking haggard. The past 2 weeks had aged him. His expensive clothes were wrinkled, his usually perfect hair disheveled. He slid into the booth across from me, desperation radiating off him like heat. "Thank you for this," he said. "I know things have been weird between us lately." "Have they? You've seemed distant, like you're mad at me or something." I leaned back in my seat. "Why would I be mad at you, Eli?" "I don't know. That's what I can't figure out." I signaled Lorna for another round. When she brought the drinks, she gave me a slight nod. The cameras were recording. "So," I said, 50,000. "Right. I can pay you back in 6 months once this legal crap gets sorted out." "What kind of collateral are you offering?" Eli's face fell. "Collateral? You're asking me to loan you 50 grand. What do I get if you can't pay it back?" "Jonah, we've been friends for 20 years. My word should be enough." "Your word." I took a sip of beer. "Tell me, Eli, how much is your word worth these days?" Something flickered in his eyes. Wariness. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know about you and Celine." The color drained from his face. "Jonah, I know about the motel rooms. I know about the afternoons at my house while I was on the rig. I know about all of it." Eli's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Finally, he found his voice. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been screwing my wife. Look, I can explain. And you got my daughter pregnant." That hit him like a physical blow. He actually recoiled in his seat. "How did you—" "The emergency contact forms were a nice touch. Really showed your commitment to fatherhood." Eli was sweating now, his expensive cologne mixing with the stench of fear. "Jonah, please, let me explain. I'm listening." He took a shaky sip of whiskey. "Celine came to me first. She was unhappy, lonely. You were gone all the time, and she needed someone to talk to. So you talked to her with your pecker." "It wasn't like that. It just happened, and Savannah, she was confused, vulnerable. She needed someone to care about her. So you cared about her with your pecker, too." Eli's jaw tightened. "You have no right to judge me. You abandoned them. You chose money over family. I chose to provide for my family. There's a difference." "Is there? When's the last time you were home for Savannah's birthday? When's the last time you took Celine on a vacation? You treat them like obligations, not people." The accusation stung because it had a grain of truth. I had been absent. I had prioritized work over relationships, but that didn't justify what he'd done. "So you decided to comfort them. I decided to be there for them when you weren't. By manipulating a 22-year-old girl into bed. She's an adult. She made her own choices. She's a kid who lost her mother when she was 10 and has been looking for father figures ever since. You knew that." Eli's mask was slipping. The charming businessman was giving way to something uglier. "Maybe if you'd been a better father, she wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." I felt the familiar heat building in my chest, the same rage that had sent me to jail 15 years ago. I breathed through it, forcing myself to stay calm. "You're right," I said. "I wasn't perfect, but I never betrayed the people who trusted me." "Betrayed?" Eli laughed bitterly. "You want to talk about betrayal? You sabotaged my business. You destroyed my life. I gave the authorities factual information about your illegal activities. That's not sabotage, that's justice." "Justice?" He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You want justice?" "Your wife doesn't love you, Jonah. She hasn't for years. She stays with you for the money, for the security. And your daughter? She's more excited about this baby than she's ever been about anything. Because finally, she has someone who actually wants her." The words were designed to hurt, and they did. But they also confirmed what I'd suspected about Celine's motivations and revealed something about Savannah that broke my heart. "Is that what you told her? That you wanted her?" "I do want her. I love her." "You love her so much you were screwing her stepmother at the same time." Eli's face flushed. "That's complicated." "It's not complicated." "That's awful. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You saw two women in a difficult situation and chose to take advantage of both. That's not. You manipulated my daughter, Eli. Patient, caring, understanding. Everything her absent father wasn't." Eli's silence was answer enough. I finished my beer and stood up. "The 50,000? You're not getting it. In fact, you're not getting anything from me ever again." "Jonah, wait. I'm done waiting. I'm done with all of it." I walked toward the door, but Eli's voice stopped me. If you leave now, I'll tell everyone about your violent past. I'll make sure Savannah knows what kind of man her father really is. I turned around slowly. What kind of man is that? The kind who knocks people half to passing in parking lots? That man was defending a woman from her abuser. What's your excuse? Eli's face contorted with rage. My excuse is that I'm better than you. I'm better for them than you'll ever be. We'll see about that. I left him sitting in that booth, probably trying to figure out his next move. But I'd already made mine. The next morning, I uploaded the security camera footage to a private YouTube channel, then shared the link with everyone in Celine's yoga class, Eli's business contacts, and the congregation at our church. The video quality was crystal clear. There was no mistaking what was happening in our bedroom while I was risking my life offshore. By noon, my phone was ringing off the hook. By evening, the whole town knew. Celine came home in tears, humiliated and furious. How could you do this to me? I didn't do anything to you, I just showed people what you were already doing. You've ruined my life. You ruined your own life. I just documented it. The yoga studio fired me. The church banned me. People are calling me a hooker. Aren't you? She slapped me, hard. The sound echoed through our kitchen like a gunshot. I want a divorce, she said. Already filed. You'll be served Monday. Her eyes went wide. You... When? Last week, while you were at your mother's telling her how much you missed me. What about the house? What about my mother's medical bills? Read the divorce papers. You get half of everything, including the debt. As for your mother's bills, that's between you and her insurance company. I can't afford. Should have thought of that before you started screwing my best friend. Celine stood there, mascara running down her cheeks, looking lost and desperate. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the videos and the sympathy died. Where's Savannah? I asked. Upstairs. She won't come down. I found my daughter in her room, curled up on her bed, staring at the wall. She looked up when I knocked, and I saw my own eyes looking back at me, the same green eyes she'd inherited from her mother. How much did you hear? I asked, sitting on the edge of her bed. All of it. Her voice was barely a whisper. Is it true? About Eli and Celine? Yes. And about the baby? What about the baby? That he's the father. I studied her face, looking for deception, but all I saw was pain. Is he? She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I pulled her into my arms, holding her while she sobbed against my chest. She felt so small, so fragile. My little girl, who used to bring me dandelions and call them flowers, who'd made me Father's Day cards out of construction paper and glitter. How long? I asked. Since the yoga retreat, 3 months ago. Did he force you? No. But he made me feel special, like I mattered. And when I found out about him and Celine, I was going to tell you, but then I found out I was pregnant, and he said we could be a family. And shh, it's okay. It's not okay. Nothing's okay. I've ruined everything. You didn't ruin anything, baby. He did. He's a grown man who took advantage of you. I'm 22, Dad. I should have known better. You're 22, and you've been through hell. Your mother dying, moving schools, dropping out of college. You were vulnerable, and he exploited that. Savannah pulled back to look at me. What are you going to do? What do you want me to do? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Do you want to keep the baby? She was quiet for a long moment. I think so, but not with him involved. Then we'll figure it out, just you and me. What about Celine? What about her? She's been good to me, even with everything that happened. I bit back my first response, that Celine had been good to her because it made the betrayal easier. Instead, I said, that's between you and her. Over the next few days, our house became a war zone. Celine packed her things while hurling accusations and threats. Miriam called me every hour, screaming about abandonment and family loyalty. Eli left dozens of voicemails, alternating between apologies and demands to see Savannah. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on practical matters. I sold the house and most of our belongings, keeping only what Savannah wanted and what I needed for the next phase of my plan. I deposited half the proceeds in an account for Celine. I wasn't going to be accused of leaving her destitute, and the other half in a trust fund for Savannah and her child. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from an unexpected source. Miriam. I want to see you, she wheezed into the phone. Before I die. You're not dying, Miriam. The cancer's spreading. Doc says I have maybe 2 months. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be sorry. Be here. There's things you need to know. I found her in the trailer park where she and Celine had moved after I stopped paying the medical bills. The place was a crap hole, peeling paint, broken windows, the smell of mold and cigarettes permeating everything. Miriam looked worse than I'd ever seen her. The cancer had hollowed her out, leaving skin stretched tight over prominent bones. But her eyes were still sharp, still calculating. Sit down, she said, patting the couch beside her hospital bed. What did you want to tell me? About my daughter, about what she did. I know what she did. No, you don't. You know about the affair. You know about the lies. But you don't know why. I waited. Celine's been stealing from you for 3 years, Miriam said. Small amounts at first. Money from your wallet, transfers from your savings, then bigger amounts. The medical bills I've been getting, half of them are fake. My blood ran cold. What? She's been padding the numbers, keeping the difference. That's how she paid for her yoga certification, her new car, all those clothes. With your money. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm dying, and I want to clear my conscience, and because you deserve to know the truth. Why should I believe you? Miriam reached under her pillow and pulled out a shoebox. Inside were bank statements, receipts, and what looked like insurance fraud documents, because I have proof. I spent an hour going through the evidence. Miriam was right. Celine had been systematically stealing from me for years, using her mother's cancer as cover. The real medical bills were maybe a third of what I'd been paying. She's been planning to leave you, Miriam continued. Soon as she had enough money saved up. The affair with Eli was just insurance, in case you caught on before she was ready. And Savannah? Collateral damage. Celine didn't know about the pregnancy until after you found out about the affair. She was as surprised as anyone, but Eli knew. Oh, he knew that boy's been planning something for months. Got lawyers, paperwork, the whole 9 yards. He thinks he can take your grandchild and your daughter both. I felt the rage building again, but this time it was colder, more focused. Where is he now? Last I heard, he was staying at the Riverside Motor Lodge on Highway 77. Room 23. I stood up to leave, but Miriam grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Jonah. What? Whatever you're planning, be smart about it. That girl needs her father, not a martyr. I'll be smart. And Jonah? Yeah? I'm sorry. For all of it. You're a good man, and my daughter's a fool. That night, I drove to the Riverside Motor Lodge. Eli's truck was parked outside room 23, just like Miriam had said. I sat in my truck for an hour, watching the windows, planning my next move. At 11 p.m., Eli came out of his room, probably heading to the vending machine. I got out of my truck and intercepted him. We need to talk, I said. He looked around nervously. Jonah, what are you doing here? I know about the money, about the legal papers, about all of it. I don't know what you're talking about. The custody suit, the grandparents' rights claim. The plan to take my daughter and grandchild? Eli's face went pale. Look, I was just covering my bases. Covering your bases? In case you tried to keep me from seeing my kid. Your kid? Yes, my kid. Savannah's pregnant with my child, and I have rights. You have nothing. I have paternity rights. I have standing to sue for custody and visitation. Not from prison, you don't. Eli frowned. Prison? The IRS investigation isn't going away, Eli. They found everything. The shell companies, the tax evasion, the fraud. You're looking at federal time. They can't prove anything. They can prove all of it. Because I gave them all of it. Understanding dawned in his eyes. You son of a witch. You fucked my wife and knocked up my daughter. What did you expect? I expected you to act like a man instead of a vindictive little witch. The insult hung in the air between us. I could feel my control slipping, the same way it had 15 years ago outside that bar. Call me a witch again, I said quietly. You're a witch, Jonah. A pathetic, betrayed witch who can't keep his woman satisfied or his daughter safe. That's when I kicked him. The punch landed clean on his jaw, snapping his head back and dropping him to the asphalt. He lay there for a moment, stunned, crimson trickling from his mouth. "Get up," I said. He struggled to his feet, wiping red liquid from his lips. "You're crazy! Get in your truck!" "What?" "Get in your truck and drive!" "Where?" "Anywhere but here. Leave town, Eli, tonight. I'm not going anywhere. I have rights." I grabbed him by the shirt and slammed him against the side of his truck. "You have nothing. Your business is dead. Your reputation is destroyed. The feds are coming for you. And if you ever come near my daughter again, I'll eliminate you. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm promising you." I let him go and stepped back. He straightened his shirt, trying to recover some dignity. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is." I watched him get in his truck and drive away, taillights disappearing into the darkness. Then I went home to my daughter. Savannah was waiting for me in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. "Did you find him?" she asked. "Yeah." "What did you say to him?" "I told him to leave town." "And he left?" She nodded, seeming almost relieved. "Good. Savannah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Do you love him?" She was quiet for a long time, staring into her tea. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red but determined. "I thought I did. But I think I was just desperate to feel wanted. After Mom died, after I dropped out of school, I felt like such a failure. And Eli made me feel special, important. You are important. You always have been. I know that now. But when he was telling me all those things, when he was paying attention to me, it felt real." "What kind of things?" "That I was beautiful, that I was smart, that he could see a future with me and the baby." She wiped her eyes. "But then I found out about Celine, and I realized he was saying the same things to her." "I'm sorry, baby. No, I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner about the pregnancy, about everything. You were scared." "I understand. Are you disappointed in me?" The question broke my heart. "Never. Confused, maybe. Angry at him, definitely. But never disappointed in you." She smiled for the first time in weeks. "What happens now? Now we figure out how to be a family, just us. What about the baby? What about it? Do you want me to keep it?" I reached across the table and took her hand. "I want whatever you want. If you want to keep the baby, we'll make it work. If you don't, we'll make that work too. I want to keep it, but I don't want Eli involved. At all." "He won't be." "How can you be sure?" I thought about the look in his eyes when I'd slammed him against his truck, the fear that had replaced his usual arrogance. Trust me. The next morning, I called my lawyer to discuss adoption procedures and paternity rights. The news wasn't great. Even if Eli left town, he could still file for custody from anywhere. And if he was listed on the birth certificate, he'd have legal standing no matter what. "Your best bet is to prove he's unfit," the lawyer said. "Criminal charges would help?" "What kind of criminal charges?" "Well, if he was using his business to fund personal activities, that's embezzlement. If he was manipulating a vulnerable young woman, that could be several things depending on the circumstances." I thanked him and hung up, then called the IRS agent handling Eli's case. "Mr. Rourke, I was hoping you'd call. We have some follow-up questions about your tip." "I'm listening." "The financial records you provided show systematic fraud, but we need more specific information about the personal expenditures. Do you know what Mr. Stroud was using the diverted funds for?" I thought about the motel rooms, the gifts for Celine, the expensive dinners. "I might be able to help with that." Over the next hour, I provided detailed information about Eli's activities, including dates, locations, and witnesses. By the time I hung up, Agent Martinez sounded very interested in expanding the investigation. 3 days later, Eli was arrested on federal fraud charges. The local news ran a story about the prominent businessman who'd been stealing from his own company to fund an affair. His mugshot made him look older, smaller, defeated. Savannah saw the story on her phone and started crying. Not sad tears, relieved tears. "It's really over?" she asked. "It's really over." But it wasn't. Not quite. 2 weeks after Eli's arrest, Celine showed up at our door. She looked terrible, thin, pale, desperate. Her mother had died the previous week. and the medical bills had wiped out what little savings she'd managed to steal from me. "I need help," she said. "You need to leave," I replied. "Please, Jonah. I have nowhere else to go. That's not my problem anymore." "What about Savannah? She needs stability right now, not more upheaval." I almost laughed. "You're lecturing me about stability? I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes? You stole from me for 3 years. You cheated on me with my best friend. You enabled him to manipulate our daughter. I never meant for Savannah to get hurt, but you didn't care if she did, as long as you got what you wanted." Celine's face crumpled. "I was unhappy, Jonah. You were never here. I felt invisible. So you made yourself visible by screwing my friend. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was just supposed to be comfort. Someone to talk to. And the money? Was that comfort too?" She flinched. "You don't understand. My mother was dying, and the insurance wasn't covering everything. Half the bills were fake, Celine. Your mother told me." The lie collapsed, and with it, the last pretense of victimhood. Celine straightened, her mask falling away to reveal something harder underneath. "Fine. You want the truth? I took the money because I earned it. 20 years of marriage to a man who cared more about his job than his family. 20 years of being alone while you played hero on an oil rig. I was providing for you. You were hiding from us. From responsibility, from emotional closeness, from everything that required actual effort. And Eli was different? Eli was present. He listened. He made me feel like a woman instead of a housekeeper. He was using you. We were using each other. At least we were honest about it. What about Savannah?" For the first time, Celine looked genuinely ashamed. That wasn't supposed to happen, but it did happen, and you let it. I didn't know about it until it was too late." "Bees. You knew exactly what he was doing, and you allowed it because it made your situation more stable." "That's not. If Savannah got pregnant, Eli would have to stick around. He couldn't just walk away from the affair without abandoning his child." "It was insurance." Celine's silence confirmed my suspicions. "You used your stepdaughter as bait to keep your boyfriend interested." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that." I stepped back and started to close the door, but Celine put her hand out to stop me. "Wait, please. I'm pregnant too." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "I'm pregnant, 8 weeks." I stared at her, trying to process this new information. "Is it mine?" "I don't know. It could be yours or Eli's." Jesus Christ, Celine. "I need help, Jonah. I can't do this alone. You should have thought of that before you destroyed our marriage." "Please. For the baby." I looked at this woman I'd once loved, this stranger who'd shared my bed and my life and my trust, and felt nothing but contempt. "Get a paternity test. If it's mine, we'll talk. If it's not, lose my number." I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to process what had just happened. Upstairs, I could hear Savannah moving around, probably getting ready for her doctor's appointment. My phone rang. It was my lawyer. "Good news," he said. "Eli's plea bargain fell through. He's going to trial, which means he'll likely get significant prison time if convicted." "How long?" 7 to 10 years minimum. "And the federal conviction will make it almost impossible for him to win any custody battle." "Almost. There's always a chance, but it's remote. Especially if your daughter is willing to testify about their relationship." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen and thought about the past 6 months. 6 months ago, I'd been a married man with a stable life, a successful career, and a family I thought I understood. Now I was divorced, unemployed. I'd quit the rig to deal with the legal mess, and facing the possibility of raising my daughter's child, and potentially my own. But for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. Savannah came downstairs dressed for her appointment. At 5 months pregnant, she was finally starting to show. "Ready?" I asked. "Ready?" We drove to the doctor's office in comfortable silence. The ultrasound showed a healthy baby girl, due in December. Savannah cried when she saw the image, and I found myself getting emotional too. "She's beautiful," Savannah whispered. "Just like her mother." "What should we name her?" "What do you want to name her?" "Grace Elizabeth." "After your mother? After yours?" I squeezed her hand. Mom would have loved that. That evening, we were having dinner when someone knocked on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw Eli's lawyer, a thin man in an expensive suit. Mr. Rourke, I'm David Kellerman. I represent Elias Stroud. I know who you are. My client would like to speak with you. Your client is in jail. He's been released on bail pending trial. He's waiting in my car. I looked past him and saw Eli sitting in the passenger seat of a black sedan. Even from a distance, I could see that jail had changed him. He looked smaller, more fragile. What does he want? To talk about his child. He doesn't have a child. Miss Rourke is carrying his baby. That gives him certain rights, not while he's facing federal charges. The charges are related to his business activities, not his fitness as a father. I considered my options. I could refuse to talk to him, but that would probably just delay the inevitable confrontation. Better to handle it now, on my terms. 5 minutes, I said, in my driveway. And you stay where I can see you. Kellerman nodded and walked back to his car. A moment later, Eli got out and approached my front door. He moved carefully, like someone who'd learned that the world could hurt him. Jonah, Eli, I want to see Savannah. No. I have rights. You have nothing. I'm the father of her child. You're a convicted felon who manipulated a vulnerable young woman. I'm not convicted yet. Give it time. Eli's jaw tightened. Look, I know you hate me. I understand that, but this isn't about us. It's about my daughter. Your daughter? The ultrasound showed it's a girl. I want to be part of her life. Why? Because she's my blood. My family. Your family was my wife and daughter. You destroyed that. I made mistakes, but I love Savannah, and I'll love this baby. The same way you loved Celine. That was different. How? Celine was complicated, but Savannah is pure, innocent. She deserves better than what happened. She deserves better than you. Eli stepped closer, and I could smell desperation on him like cheap cologne. Please, I'm begging you. Let me be a father to my child. You gave up that right when you chose to fuck my wife. That has nothing to do with it. Has everything to do with it. You proved you can't be trusted. You proved you're selfish and manipulative and cruel. What kind of father would you be? I'd be a good father. Like you were a good friend? The question hung between us like a blade. Eli's face went through several emotions: anger, shame, desperate hope. I can change, he said finally. No, you can't. People like you don't change. They just get better at hiding what they are. You're wrong. Am I? Tell me, Eli, when you were screwing my wife in my bed, were you thinking about being a good father? When you were grooming my daughter, were you thinking about what was best for her? That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would be you disappearing forever and never darkening our lives again. I won't do that. Then we have a problem. Eli straightened, trying to summon some of his old arrogance. I'll fight you in court. I'll win custody. With what money? Your assets are frozen. Your business is dead. Your reputation is shot. I'll find a way. No, you won't, because I'll make sure you don't. Something in my voice made him step back. What's that supposed to mean? It means if you come near my daughter or my granddaughter, I'll finish what I started. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. Eli looked at me for a long moment, probably trying to decide if I was bluffing. I wasn't, and something in my eyes must have told him that. This isn't over, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is. I watched him walk back to the car, his shoulders slumped in defeat. As they drove away, I felt a weight lift from my chest. For the first time since this nightmare began, I believed it might actually be over. But I was wrong. 3 months later, just 2 weeks before Savannah's due date, Eli showed up again. This time he came alone, driving a beat-up Honda that suggested his financial situation hadn't improved. I was in the garage working on a crib I'd been building for Grace when I heard the car pull up. Through the window, I watched Eli get out and walk toward the house. He looked terrible, thin, unshaven, wearing clothes that had seen better days. I met him at the front door before he could knock. I told you not to come back, I said. I need to see her, Jonah, please. She doesn't want to see you. Did you ask her? I hadn't, actually. Savannah had made it clear months ago that she wanted nothing to do with Eli, and I'd respected that decision. She's made her feelings clear. People change their minds, especially when they're about to become mothers. What's that supposed to mean? It means she might want her daughter to know her father. Her daughter will know her father. Eli's face twisted with frustration. You're not the father, Jonah. I am. Biology doesn't make you a father. Being there does. Caring does. Sacrifice does. I'm willing to sacrifice. Really? What are you willing to sacrifice? Anything. Everything. Your freedom. What? The trial starts next month. You're looking at serious prison time. What kind of sacrifice is it to want a relationship with a child you won't be able to see for the next decade? Eli's composure cracked slightly. The charges aren't as serious as they seem. My lawyer thinks we can work out a deal. What kind of deal? Probation? Community service? Maybe a little jail time, but not years. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. Eli, you embezzled over $200,000 from your own company. You used that money to fund an affair and manipulate a young woman into bed. You're not getting probation? You don't know that? I know because I talked to the prosecutor. They have everything. Bank records, receipts, witness testimony. You're done. The color drained from his face. What witness testimony? Mine. Savannah's. Even Celine's, once she realized you weren't going to be there to support her and her baby. Celine testified against me? Celine did whatever she had to do to save herself. Just like you would have done. Eli stared at me for a long moment, then laughed bitterly. You really destroyed everything, didn't you? I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already destroyed. What about forgiveness? What about second chances? You used up your second chance when you chose to betray me a second time, and a third, and a fourth. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did. And now you have to live with the consequences. Eli's facade finally crumbled completely. Tears ran down his cheeks as he struggled to find words. Please, he whispered, I'm begging you. Let me see my daughter. Let me hold her once. That's all I'm asking. For a moment, I wavered. The man in front of me wasn't the confident manipulator who'd destroyed my family. He was broken, desperate, pathetic. A part of me, the part that remembered 20 years of friendship, wanted to show mercy. But then I thought about Savannah, 8 months pregnant and finally happy for the first time in years. I thought about Grace, innocent and vulnerable, deserving protection from the chaos that followed Eli wherever he went. No, I said. Jonah. No, go home, Eli. It's over. I closed the door and locked it, then stood there listening as his footsteps retreated down the walkway. A minute later, I heard his car start and drive away. Upstairs, Savannah was taking a nap. I checked on her, saw her sleeping peacefully with one hand resting on her swollen belly, and felt a fierce protectiveness surge through me. Whatever else happened, I would keep her safe. I would keep Grace safe. 2 weeks later, Savannah went into labor at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. I drove her to the hospital through empty streets, holding her hand at red lights while she breathed through contractions. Grace Elizabeth Rourke was born at 11:47 a.m., weighing 6 pounds, 4 ounces. She had Savannah's nose and my green eyes, and when the nurse placed her in my arms for the first time, I understood what love actually meant. She's perfect, Savannah whispered from her hospital bed, just like her mother. Do you think she looks like him? I studied Grace's tiny face, looking for any resemblance to Eli. But all I saw was my daughter and my mother and the possibility of something good growing from something terrible. She looks like a Rourke, I said. 3 days later, we brought Grace home to a house I'd baby-proofed and filled with everything a newborn could need. Savannah was a natural mother, patient, gentle, completely devoted. Watching her with Grace, I finally understood why she'd been so determined to keep the baby despite everything. This wasn't Eli's daughter. This was ours. A month after Grace was born, Eli's trial began. I testified for 2 hours, detailing his business practices and personal conduct. Savannah testified for 30 minutes, describing their relationship and his manipulation. Celine testified for an hour, confirming that Eli had used company funds for personal expenses related to their affair. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts. Eli was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. He looked directly at me when the sentence was read, And I saw nothing in his eyes but hatred. Good. Hatred was clean. Hatred was honest. After the trial, Celine moved to California with her newborn son. DNA tests had confirmed that Eli was the father of that child, too. I never heard from her again, and that was fine with me. Savannah and I settled into a routine. She took online college classes while Grace napped. I found work with a local construction company, building houses instead of maintaining oil rigs. The pay was less, but I was home every night for dinner, and I never missed a bedtime story. Grace grew into a happy, healthy toddler with my stubbornness and Savannah's sweetness. She called me Grandpa and followed me around the yard while I worked in my garden. Sometimes I caught Savannah watching us with tears in her eyes. "What's wrong?" I'd ask. "Nothing," she'd say. "I'm just happy." On Grace's second birthday, we had a small party in our backyard. Lorna came, along with Dusty and a few neighbors. Grace wore a pink dress and got chocolate cake in her hair, and everyone agreed she was the most beautiful child they'd ever seen. That night, after everyone had gone home and Grace was asleep, Savannah and I sat on the porch, watching fireflies dance in the summer heat. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Regret what?" "Everything that happened. The divorce, the trial, giving up your job on the rig." I thought about it seriously. "Do you?" "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never gotten involved with Eli. If I'd just stayed focused on school, on my own life. You'd never have had Grace." "That's true. And I'd probably still be married to Celine, still working offshore, still missing all the important moments." "So you don't regret it?" "I regret that it happened the way it did. I regret that you got hurt, that you had to go through all that pain, but the end result?" I gestured toward the house where Grace was sleeping. "No, I don't regret this." Savannah leaned against my shoulder. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, kiddo." We sat there in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of suburban Texas. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistle blew, long and mournful. 5 years later, I got a letter from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Eli was being released early for good behavior. He'd served 6 years of his 8-year sentence and would be on probation for the remainder. I showed the letter to Savannah, who was now 29 and working as a physical therapist. Grace was 7, in second grade, and had never asked about her biological father. "What do we do?" Savannah asked. "Nothing. We keep living our lives. What if he tries to contact us? Then we deal with it." But Eli never came. Maybe prison had taught him something about consequences. Maybe he'd found peace, or at least acceptance. Or maybe he was just smart enough to know that some bridges, once burned, could never be rebuilt. I preferred not to think about it. Instead, I focused on the life we'd built: Grace's soccer games and school plays, Savannah's graduation from physical therapy school, Sunday dinners and bedtime stories, and the 1,000 small moments that make up a family. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about the man I used to be, the one who'd spent weeks at a time on an oil rig, who'd thought that providing money was the same as providing love, who'd been so focused on being strong that he'd forgotten to be present. That man was gone, buried under the weight of betrayal and reborn in the love of a daughter and granddaughter who needed him to be better. On Grace's 10th birthday, she asked me about her father for the first time. "Mom says he's not around anymore," she said. "Did he die?" Savannah and I had discussed this moment, had prepared for it. We'd agreed to tell her the truth, age appropriately, when she was ready. "No, sweetheart, he's not dead. But he made some bad choices, and he can't be part of our family." "What kind of bad choices?" "He hurt people he was supposed to love. He broke promises. He did things that were against the law." Grace considered this seriously. "Is that why you're my dad instead of him?" "I'm your granddad, not your dad. But yes, that's why I'm here and he's not." "Good," she said. "I like having you as my family." "I like it too." She hugged me then, with the fierce intensity that only children possess, and I felt something I'd been carrying for 10 years finally let go. Later that night, after Grace was asleep and Savannah had gone to bed, I sat in my workshop looking at the rocking chair I'd built for Grace when she was born. It was solid oak, hand-sanded and carefully jointed, built to last for generations. Like the family we'd created from the ashes of the old one. I thought about Eli, somewhere out in the world, and wondered if he ever thought about what he'd lost. Not just the money or the freedom, but the chance to be part of something real, something lasting. Then I put him out of my mind and focused on tomorrow. Grace's soccer practice, Savannah's work schedule, the deck I was planning to build so we could have barbecues in the backyard, the future we were building, one day at a time. When the oil runs dry, you learn who survives the fire. We had survived. We had thrived, and that was enough. When the oil runs dry, you learn who survives the fire. We had survived. We had thrived, and that was enough.